Oh my god, I only have like 15 more of these scripts. And then it's over, guys. Ursula's got 15 more. I've got 15 more. We got some live streams in between. But we're like a month away from being done. The 100 days of making comics thing. I just gotta say, oh man, 70 videos. Yeah, we all know what last number was. I saw your comments. So today we're going to be talking about ending stories, and I have a headache, and I say this every video, but it's going to be a short one today because have you tried making like 50 videos in a row and talking about like topics, like trying to say something smart about writing? Guys, there's not much to writing. I'm realizing a lot of it's just practice. Oh heck. We're all doomed. But yeah, we're going to be talking about the bread and butter of ending a comic. I don't know if I've already talked about this. You know what? I think I have, because it's a lot like ending a scene, which I definitely talked about. Ending a scene's just a little story arc, so if you can end a scene, you can end an entire comic. It's not that hard. But yeah, we're going to be talking about payoff. And way back in the beginning of the series, I made a video about setup. And now that we're here on the other side of this series, it's time to address payoff. Setup is where you set up all your dominoes, and payoff is where you knock them all down. If you saw someone setting up dominoes, you'd be like, heck, you better throw down. I want to see this happen, you know? The end of your comic is where you knock all your dominoes down, okay? And then resolutions where you stare at your knockdown dominoes for a little bit. See the chaos, what you've wrought upon it. Now, the first step to a successful payoff is knowing what you have set up. And this can happen by making sure you keep track of everything in an outline and make sure everything is accounted for and you know what you're setting up and you're just going straight into your payoff because you're way more plan-oriented than I am. That's cool. And another way you can do that is by rereading your thing, like I said yesterday, and making note of everything that you gotta pay off in the end, like what all you've set up. And the third way, which I think is really actually super helpful, is having alpha readers. And I've never really mentioned them before. I've mentioned beta readers, and they read your story like after the first or second draft. And I rarely bring up alpha readers, and for me, an alpha reader is an Ursula. She usually reads things as I am writing them, so she gets to see the first draft even before it's finished, and with that, she's able to give me notes along the way. And if you have said luxury, or you have like an artist or a writer pal that wants to read along with you, the great thing to do is ask them about stuff. And when you're coming up on the ending of your story, it's good to ask them what they see your ending being. Like, what is their guesses for the ending? What do they want to see out of an ending? Like, what are the promises that have been made? Asking them how it's going to end, sometimes you can feel a little, like, especially if you have like a secret ending and they guessed it. Sometimes you'll feel the need to want to change it, but you don't necessarily have to. Like, as long as everything's set up, it's good, okay? It's good to ask them along the way too. Alpha readers is a whole other topic, but they're very helpful. And if you do notice that there are things in the ending that they want that you didn't realize you set up, it's good to start adding those, or B, remove them later on so that you don't set them up in the first place. If they are like, well, there's going to be a laser fight at the end because obviously you've set this up and you're like, oh no, it's a quiet ending, then you need to look at your story earlier and see what you've done to make your reader think that it's going to end in a laser fight. Yeah. The thing about payoff is whatever is introduced early and then repeated is going to feel significant, and it's going to feel like setup. And if it feels like setup, your readers are going to want it to be treated like setup, and they're going to want payoff. This is best known as the writing trope Chekhov's gun. And the way that works is if you have a gun at the beginning of your story in your first act that you have shown off very deliberately, it's better be fired at some point in the third act, and especially so if you see it repeated in the second act. So make sure you know what you're repeating, be it jokes or not. If it's repeated, it feels like it needs to be built upon. Likewise, the more neglected rule to remember is the reverse of that. And so if an element shows up in the ending of your story, you better have it set up early on. Otherwise, you're going to have Deus Ex Machina, unless you want that. But you probably don't want that. You usually don't want that. You want things to feel naturally. You want people to feel like they had the chance to guess it, even though it was vague and you had like super masterful foreshadowing. And you know, foreshadowing's great, but you can also set up things outside of the shadows. Either way, you just need to pay attention to what you have set up, and then you got to follow through with it. You don't necessarily always have to follow through with it in the exact way that your readers are expecting. We'll get to that in plot twists, I suppose. But for the most part, you just want to address anything that you brought up and look significant. And you also want to hint at anything early on if it's going to happen in the payoff. Usually that's what like the midpoint is for the major hint of what's going to happen at the end. So like it's why it's a turning point. So if you have a character who's a super duper grump, there's going to be a hint that they're not a grump in the middle of your story, and then they're going to return to a grump, and then they're going to not be a grump anymore as they're tested in the climax. But you need to have it set up in order to get payoff, and usually what payoff ends up being is kind of the opposite of usually the payoff is going to result in some sort of fundamental shift, something surprising yet inevitable. That's something you'll hear all the time, is payoff is surprising yet inevitable. And the reason that it's inevitable is that you saw all the setup, you knew that something was going to go down, but it's surprising because it's not necessarily what the reader is expecting. It's a whole bunch of work. It's really hard to think out these kind of things. It's good to listen to your alpha readers again and be like, what are you expecting? And then you're like, okay, so this is what everyone's expecting. How can I achieve the same payoff but not do the outright thing? So I guess this is kind of for plot twists, but either way, like if everyone's expecting someone to get shot and you can shoot someone else instead and it'll be even more satisfying, consider it. Just think about payoff and make sure whatever you change, you are still making something that is faithful to what you have set up in the beginning, and then you're going to be okay. And like I said, short video because I'm kind of sick. I'm always sick. Why am I always sick? It's because I don't know. The coffee was bitter today. Don't tell Ursula. Nobody at Ursula about the bitter coffee. But I don't think I drank it. This is probably like a caffeine migraine. Man, what did I do to myself? Alright, thank you guys for watching all of these videos so far. You guys are super duper amazing, and you're the light of my life. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Keep doing your comics. I believe in you. I know we say I believe in you a lot, but I actually do. I think everyone can make their comics as long as they're not a butthole. I mean, buttholes can make comics, but I don't believe in buttholes. Buttholes are a fabrication. Conspiracy. Okay, goodbye.